Hi, I'm Corey, and I have too many tapes. I talk a lot about Beakman's World, Pee-wee's Playhouse, and Bill Nye the Science Guy in this show. They're my holy trinity of my aesthetic when it comes to hosted kids shows. I love over-the-top design and clutter, who'da thunk. I love playful, engaging lead characters, and I love gentle, entertaining anarchy. But the shows are also deeply infused with a desire to teach, even if something like Pee-wee is leading by a sort of anti-example, and a desire to tell a compelling linear narrative. Even something as madcap as Beakman's World had an A, B, and C plot. At their best, these shows mixed the fun, learning, and story together in a nice, homogeneous edutainment smoothie. This is where Beakman shined, combining learning, story, and fun beautifully into something quirky and wholesome. You don't necessarily need all three of those ingredients at all times, though. You need at least two of them to keep the mixture palatable. Pee-wee falls down on the learning, but keeps the story and fun at an all-time high and makes up for it in that way. Bill Nye switches those ratios. The story is almost non-existent, but the learning and fun are pretty even-keeled, so it balances out. But today's show gets 2 out of 3 wrong because it starts from a wrong-headed place. It's a show that figures if it portrays an outward feeling of fun, if the actors on set really pretend like they're having a fun and zany time, that it will transubstantiate into real, actual fun. And this simply isn't true. Kids aren't dumb. They know what's fun, and they know what's boring. And what's more boring than getting Sunday school level Bible lessons from the guy who wrote This Present Darkness? So let's take a look at one of the most ludicrous and baffling kid shows I've had to review for this channel. Not because it's horrifying, not because it's even particularly offensive or aggressive, it's just nothing. This time on Too Many Tapes, it's Mr. Henry's Wild and Wacky World. We start on one of the least inspiring and engaging images I've ever seen in filmed medium. A high-angle shot of a ladder on a dirty workshop floor. This is not enticing. Where is the color? Where is the dynamism? It's drab, boring, depressing even. Pans fall to the floor as we cut to our hero. Hero's too strong of a word. Star may be too strong of a word too. We cut to the person responsible for this howling void of charisma and interest. Renowned Christian author Frank Peretti. Tons of 80s and 90s kids who grew up in extremely religious households just got shudders up their spines at the mention of his name. Normally, when a writer steps out from behind the laptop for a side career in the public eye, it's bad news. Writers are defined by darkness and weird schedules. They grow like mushrooms. They don't need to be camera ready, they're making the world up in their head and transferring it into yours. The only thing they need to be remotely presentable for is the dust jacket book photo and the occasional tour interview. At best, you get the weird cocaine energy of Stephen King when he showed up in things in the 80s.
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
At worst, you get, well, everything the writer of a certain set of particularly successful magical school books has done in the last 5 years. Frank is somewhere in the middle here, the neutral, the void. He brings absolutely nothing to the table beyond name recognition, and he's not even playing himself. He plays Mr. Henry, an eccentric inventor whose dialogue is so unfunny that they felt the need to sweeten every second of his existence with the entirety of the cartoon sound effects library from the 1950s.
Now it is time for the chef to begin. I think a heavy problem there. Yes, I'm sure I got a problem now. I need some help getting this thing off.
The setup of the episode is here already. Mr. Henry is baking a heart-shaped angel food cake for his wife, Mrs. Henry. Okay, so his last name is Henry, or maybe her first name is Henry? Henrietta? Henry? Is this like a Mario situation? This is the entirety of the cold open. We then cut to the title sequence, which reveals the worldview of this thing a bit more. A paperboy on his bike, complete with cards in the spokes like it's 1952, delivers newspapers in an idyllic suburb. We get pretty stock standard toss landing shots, nothing too fanciful, and then he stops his bike to deliver to Mr. Henry's treehouse Rube Goldberg contraption thing. Note here that card and spokes noise doesn't stop until well after the bike has stopped. That can only mean somebody initially wanted this credit sequence to go on even longer for some inexplicable reason. The only rule of filming a Rube Goldberg machine is process. Show the process. Show how logically one wacky thing leads to the next in a series of escalating dependencies and inevitabilities. Mr. Henry's Wild and Wacky World fails at this utterly. We never get a clear enough shot to see how it's working, spoiler, because it probably didn't work and they just needed to cut around it, and got really sloppy in the edit. The title card is doing a lot of work here too. We've got a different type style for every word, so you know this thing is fun, right? Right? Mr. Henry has the cake in the oven, but is having trouble with it. And I'm having trouble listening to the voice Frank Peretti has chosen to adopt for this character. It shifts so consistently into this high-pitched whine that's matched almost too perfectly with his swaying, listing physical performance style.
I think it's almost done, but I can't tell. I installed an oven timer program in Circuitous, but I forgot to set it.
Physical comedy is all about precision. When you want to portray someone who's gangly and clumsy, you can't actually be gangly and clumsy. It's a dance. There are steps. There are things you have to do with your body to portray an outward sense of unsteadiness that is informed by an inward sense of balance and specificity. Again, Frank Peretti is not an actor, and not a children's host, and not a physical comedian. He's a novelist. Not a terrible one either. The guy can weave a story, even if it's jam-packed with a lot of wackadoo new Christian right stuff. I'm not here to critique his ideology or theology. Yet. Depends on how annoyed I get at this thing. But just look at the guy. Look at this aesthetic. Look at his entire vibe. There's nothing wacky about Mr. Henry, nothing wild about him or his world. There's a knock at the door and Mr. Henry pratfalls his way across the stage, giving us a broader look at it.
Delivery, guys!
I know I'm coming across as nitpicky here, but this thing feels unfinished. Like a rough draft, like they ran out of money but were contractually obligated to deliver episodes. Everyone involved here should still feel embarrassed about this one. This didn't even come out in the 90s. This was the mid-aughts, for crying out loud. We could do so much for so cheap at the tail end of the VHS boom, and for some reason the best they could do was whatever this is. In fact, this set looks like they built something on the backside of an existing set so they could shoot a quick cash-in during the off hours of another show, like it was the Mexican version of Dracula, but with like 1/10 of the quality or artistic merit.
Okay. I don't think that
I cannot overstate how many sound effects are in this thing. The delivery guy, who helpfully has the words delivery guy on his hat like they bought this costume at a Spirit Halloween, conveniently has a magnet puller that Henry ordered. This gets the, I want to say, baking pan off his foot. The magnet doohickey works, but this causes a totally static except for his arms night robot to go off about danger. The robot is named Circuitous. Get it? Like Sir as in night, Circuitous as in circuit, so a night robot. Circuitous. This is the level of punsmithing we're working with here, people. You signed up for this, or maybe you didn't. It's really hard to tell anymore. Anyway, the angel food cake is burning! This is ostensibly the A-plot of the episode. Angel food cake. And vamping. So much vamping. The thing is 35 minutes, but I'd be shocked if the script crested 22 pages.
Ow! Just what I always needed! That's a new light bulb for the oven!
It's neck and neck between this and the Knock Knock Show for the most annoying voice in a kid's show I've reviewed, and that's saying something. Delivery Guy, who is in increasing trouble for the sheer amount of time he's spending on this one delivery, also gives Mr. Henry a grow bulb, which he initially mistakes as an oven light. He then makes contradictory claims about the bulb's purpose. It's either to grow tropical plants in his oven to recreate their natural habitat, or to stimulate the growth of baked goods. This is a smokescreen. We know why you bought a grow bulb, Henry, and the cops are right outside, unless, of course, you live in Colorado, or New Mexico, or like a bunch of states now, actually. Never mind. Apparently, the bulb was a gift. An ominous gift, but a gift nonetheless. As the two idiots wander outside to talk about gift shops, the studio comes to life. A taxidermied moose with a southern drawl and a fish puppet from Brooklyn trying to make sense of whatever it was that just happened.
How very kind of someone to notice that Mr. Henry needed a special light bulb.
Yeah, and paying for it too. That's good stuff.
A very generous and noble thing indeed.
I'd do something like that for any of you boys, if I could.
Thanks, Miss Harriet.
They are throwing whatever aesthetic tricks they can at the wall to try to get this thing to stick, and they are all band-aids on a fundamental problem: the gaping void of charisma at the show's center. Which is a shame, because of everything so far in this misguided mess, the fish puppet is the only thing I like. Solidly built, looks nice, decent voice, well performed. Keep the puppet and ditch literally everything else and maybe you've got something. And the French shark can stay.
Oui, oui, très bien, Monsieur Barbers.
See, I can say nice things occasionally.
There is a lot of love in this room right now. I feel it in my gills.
Oh, I'm tearing up here. I'm about to flood my fishbowl.
Who wants a hug?
Okay. So this was all a long wind-up to talk about giving. Note that we started this segment with Henry's foot in a loaf pan. There are certainly more efficient ways to set up your sermon, but here goes nothing.
I know someone that gave, and he did it in lots of ways.
Ooh, I know this one. It's my patrons. They give every month.
Toward the beginning of his ministry, Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee, and he saw two brothers.
Oh, it's Jesus. Close second. You can tell this was made in the early aughts because of the flat, nightmarish flash animation they're using here. The walk cycles, man. It's always the walk cycles. Why does nobody in budget animation know how to draw a walk cycle?
Peter and Andrew dropped their nets in the lake and they followed Jesus.
Every one of these kind of tapes has an animated Bible story segment. It feels codified. Of the ones I've watched for too many tapes, this is definitively in the bottom of the bottom half. Partially because of the egregiousness of the white guy Jesus mustache beard short flippy hair combo that makes him look like a guy who worked at a Hollister in 2002 and rocked a puka shell necklace well past when it was trendy. As Jesus stories go, it feels ridiculously compressed, going from him gathering the disciples all the way to, wait a second, what the heck is that?
This crowd totally misunderstood who Jesus was. He wasn't there to overthrow Rome. No. This is... Don't do that, show. Why would you do that? I need to sleep at some point and you're out here doing that. The lip sync, the mouth animations, good lord, they still haunt me. I have to watch these tapes a few times to develop the script and edit the video, and it brings my viewing to a screeching halt every single time. Anyway, it goes from disciple gathering to temple table flipping in like 65 seconds, and in those 65 seconds, we don't get an example of Jesus giving anything. Animation isn't cheap, even the bad kind. If you're gonna pay to commission people to draw characters and environments, at least make sure it's relevant to the point you're trying to make. It's a show versus tell problem here, and that is yet another fundamental issue with Mr. Henry's wild and wacky world. It doesn't understand how to visually show the message it's trying to convey. All of its attempts to explain and describe its central theme, which we'll shortly see is salvation, failed to connect. Television is a visual medium, but Peretti is a communicator in the written word. His little flower metaphor he uses here for salvation, which depicts Jesus as a Hot Wheels track bridge between two flower mountains connecting the spiritual world and the world of man, may be fun in, say, a Sunday school setting where we can all have a great laugh by getting covered in flour, but on TV it's forced. All of these extended baking metaphors are, well, underbaked, underproofed. They've got soggy bottoms. Don't eat this, Mary. It's an unfortunate and common problem with religious kids media. All of this stuff almost invariably started at youth ministry or Sunday school, and it just doesn't translate to the new medium. They're not using it to its fullest. You'd think for a group of people that have heard as many parables as these folks have in their lives, they'd be better at this. Quick aside, if you've ever wondered why I don't cover Veggie Tales on this channel, it's because they have this thing on lock. They mix the liturgy with the story pretty much flawlessly and add just enough silliness to keep the kids interested. It's insidiously effective, and Phil Vischer is a genuinely good guy, so he escapes my microscope.
For now. I could get desperate for views at some point.
Extreme sadness.
We get an interesting little interstitial where they show some backwards footage of nuts and bolts and stuff on a table forming into the answer to a trivia question, and we're back to the baking metaphor. The baking metaphor would have been better served for faith, right? I'm just making this up off the top of my head. When you keep opening the oven to check on the cake, you're actually damaging the cake, messing with the temperature. Even if you can't see in the oven, you have to have the faith that you set it to the right temperature and you know the right time. This isn't that hard, Frank. Anyway, the robot reminds him to check the themelator, a machine that creates the theme for the episode. Hachi-machi, how little subtext can we have? How shallow do you think you can make this before kids start throwing their children's New International Version Bibles at your head? Henry shoves everything from the episode so far into the cardboard computing machine, and out pops a tortured metaphor. Hooray. It's a heart-shaped pan with a barcode sticker on it labeled Salvation.
It has one of those barcodes inside. Hey, I've got something to read this.
The barcode throws me a bit because this guy definitely seems like the kind of person who would have interpreted the introduction of barcodes in the 70s and 80s as a sign of the mark of the beast. But that's neither here nor there. He scans the barcode and it reads, paid in full. That's Henry... Frank, that's not how barcodes work, man. Come on. Leave it to a show like this to craft a metaphor so sweaty.
This is all starting to make sense. You sure about that?
For one of the fundamental principles of Christianity, we're even doing John 3:16 as the main Bible verse here, it sure does feel like they struggled to put together a message that makes sense to kids. Peretti, to his credit, is trying. He knows this is the part he has to nail. This is the important piece that has to fit somewhere within a wild and wacky world if they want the show as a whole to have the impact they're going for. But take a listen to the music and sound effects under him.
There it is. For God so loved the world. That's everybody. No matter if you're a real sweet grandma or a mean kid on the school bus. God loves us so much.
It's deeply unserious. Even if the writing were better, the production and post-production choices undermine anything the show is trying to say. Another puppet segment goes by, and we begin our next act with ear-splitting sirens. Ear-splitting sirens, the perfect selling point for any VHS tape your child may watch on repeat.
That's my new oven timer. That means the cake's done.
The cake comes out fine, which leads to Henry playing a little bluegrass ditty with no lyrics or learning content whatsoever, because what children all across this great land love more than anything is bluegrass. Lots and lots of bluegrass. Nothing like fiddle music and aggressive banjos to turn the youth to the Lord. Maybe we're still riding the Oh Brother Where Art Thou wave at this point in the aughts. Maybe they filmed this in Branson, who knows. Look, it's not bad. I like bluegrass. I just don't know what any of it is supposed to be doing here. Moving on. We get our next segment. Krill Bams. Wait. Bam Skrell. Oh, scramble. Another puzzle. Because we have to fill this thing up with something to keep the kids from rioting. It's nothing, but I do kind of like the scrambled egg typography. Whoever was in charge of the type design on this one had some juice. Next, though, we vamp on Delivery Guy giving Mr. Henry the gift of cake frosting for an uncomfortably long amount of time. He lingers, overstays his welcome. Poor Delivery Guy, so lonely. Out there buying gifts for everyone, but nobody really wants to engage with him. Nobody asks Delivery Guy how his day is going. Nobody buys Delivery Guy gifts.
Okay, see you.
Okay. All right, see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, man. Whew. Henry frosts the cake and talks on the TV monitors to his much more interesting twin brother, which leads to a spontaneous reenactment theater, which was shot at the Great Passion Play in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, so you know it's gonna be folksy.
We call it the tale, or parable, or two parables, whatever, about two lost things from the bestseller, The Bible.
Is this interdimensional cable? Are they making this up on the spot? Anyway, the parables barely hold together, and while they do technically support the theme of the episode, they don't land right because of the way they're told. They're not set up well. They feel too spontaneous to reinforce the lesson. Next. The fish does some trivia questions, and then Henry tries to wrap up the episode.
You know, all of us have done wrong.
Oof, bad foot to start on. Don't tell me your dark secrets, Henry. So to sum it up, the oven without a light was a heart without God. The cake, which is shaped like a heart, isn't a heart, but is instead God's love, and you have to open the oven heart to get the heart love cake, and then you'll shine like an oven light bulb. I think I got that right.
Believe in Jesus. Ask him to come into your life. He'll do it.
And we end on the hard sell. This guy is old school. I'm not gonna lie, that was rough. And again, the content is milquetoast and inoffensive for the genre, but it makes me wonder, what was the objective of this show? What was the tone, the atmosphere, the feeling they wanted it to give off? I, for the life of me, can't put my finger on it. I don't think they had an objective other than teach biblical lessons to children. And that goes back to my much better thought out cooking metaphor with the smoothie. There's no fun, no real story. There's just the aesthetic of fun to make the project seem like it has any appeal to kids whatsoever. But the texture is all wrong. It's like drinking straight protein powder. Sure, it's the thing in your smoothie you need the most, the thing that's going to sustain you through your day, but if you don't throw some bananas and yogurt and strawberries in there, you're going to have a bad time. That being said, if all you really care about is protein, and all you eat every single day is protein powder, maybe you think it's delicious. Maybe you don't see how other people might not find it all that palatable. Or you think it's about presentation and not the taste, so you put it in a fun bowl and add a garnish to it. But it's still, at the end of the day, just a dry, sad scoop of protein powder. And it's your own fault nobody wants to eat that. Thank you all for watching Too Many Tapes. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to get updates for when I upload videos. Also, if you like this video or any of the videos I make, why not recommend me to a friend? It's free, it's easy, it's fun, it's still legal. Did you either grow up watching this show or grow up reading Frank Peretti novels? What's your relationship to either of those like? Does the word Anak mean anything to you? Let me know in the comments. If you want to help out a small YouTube channel, consider donating $1 or more a month to my Patreon. For just $2 a month, you get early access to my videos. Every dollar I get through Patreon goes to fund tapes and films to cover, as well as new equipment to make the show look and sound as good as it possibly can, so thank you for your support. If you donate $50 or more a month like Natto Kitsch, you get a movie recommendation. This month I'm recommending The Wild Robot, directed by Chris Sanders. It's emotionally deep, beautifully animated, and wonderfully voiced. Genuinely, what else could you ask for? The less I say about it, the better. Go discover the joy for yourself. For $10 or more a month, you're the one redeeming fish puppet, because you get to be pretty big in the credits for some reason. And for $5 a month, you're part of the properly functioning Rube Goldberg machine that delivers my videos to you slightly earlier than they air on YouTube. Thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you next time on Too Many Tapes. Gonna have to go back. I lost the track of that sentence. I write sentences that are too long to say.